If you are someone who defines their work by their sacrifice, their commitment, the hours they work, how hard you grind, I want you to stay tuned. And if you're someone who's perhaps on the other end of that spectrum, perhaps even part of a new generation entering the workforce, who is reluctant to establish that reputation, who is not interested in that badge of commitment, sacrifice, health and family after work, I want you to stay tuned as well. Robin and I were at a conference last week in Vancouver, case conference for educators and leaders. And it was really interesting, the dialogue that we had around this notion of work-life balance, right? And the frustration in some of the leaders with a younger generation coming into the teaching profession and who are pushing back against sort of an old school established level of sacrifice and commitment to work where your work comes before your health and your time with family, right? And it was quite funny because they had a line where this one person said, this new generation has a phrase for it. They call it life-work balance. And I thought that was a good little chuckle. But anyway, fair enough. And so we have a dilemma. And if you think it's just education, it's not. Education is just a little window into what's going on in so many different sectors of the workforce. This idea of work-life balance or life-work balance, however you want to look at it. And we have two opposing groups, right? We've got an old school group who grew up at a time where it was all about grinding and your work came first. And a lot of them found their identity around that level of commitment. And, myself included, when I started teaching late 90s, early 2000s, I remember in my interview, the guy who hired me said, now you understand that working at this school is a lifestyle, not a job. And it was made very clear that this was 24/7. It was a boarding school, independent school on the island. And, fair enough. And I bought in. I loved the work. So I didn't see it necessarily as a badge. I just freaking loved it, right? My extracurricular was coaching rowing. Yeah, poor me. It was my favorite time of the day. Long hours, you bet. Huge level of commitment, of course. Exhausted at certain times of the year, totally. But I loved it. And so, but not everybody is in that boat, no pun intended. Not everybody buys into that level of commitment, right? They want to have a life. I did not have a life. Fair enough. So enter a new generation of young teachers and educators, and they are seeing the lifestyle of this older generation, and they're just thinking, you know what? Not for me. Maybe there's a different way, a better way to be doing this. And so they're pushing back, and they're creating some friction. And anytime there's friction, it's a time for growth, and that's an exciting time. So the possibility that Robin and I invite both of those groups to consider, and I love her word in this, right? Robin calls it, instead of work-life balance, she calls it work-life balancing. And the nuance of that is that balance is an endpoint, right? It's like you shoot to arrive at an end game where there's perfect balance between your work and your life. Never happens. So Robin refers to it as balancing. It's an action verb, right? So it means that you are continually in flux. It's fluid. It's like yin and yang. You are continually amidst a relationship between your work and your life where there are periods of heavy work and there are periods of more time for life. And I just think that's a healthier, more achievable way of looking at it. And so we invite leaders to consider that, both the leaders that we work with as clients, and we also work with younger individuals who are coming into their workforce, first time, second time job, and they're thinking, man, this pace, this is not what I signed on for. How do I take care of myself amidst this sort of expectation? Now, some people say, oh, the new generation's lazy. They're not freaking lazy. They just have some gumption. They know what they want, and they're willing to stand up for what they want. And I admire that. I didn't. And so the way that we encourage or invite both parties to come to the table and consider that there's going to have to be compromise on both sides. Surprise, surprise, right? There's going to have to be compromise. But the compromise doesn't mean less than. The compromise can actually serve the notion of performance. And here's what the research shows us, is that when we include ourselves in our circle of care, when we make time for exercise, for mindfulness, for more sleep, oh goodness, imagine that, right? For social time, for all of the things that serve our soul, we not only perform at a higher level, we perform at that higher level for longer periods of time. And here's the thing about the grinders, is that that's not true. And you know it. You know that you drag yourself across the finish line. But if you were to change your paradigm, the way you look at this commitment, and stop taking so much satisfaction from the fact that you're a grinder and that's your identity, you would open yourself up to a higher level of performance and one that's more sustainable. But, that's going to take some doing. It's going to take some self-awareness to know when you're more in love with the badge that says your level of commitment and sacrifice is super high, way to go, than you are in trying to find a solution. When you come to the place when you realize, okay, you know what I'm interested in? I'm interested in doing my job at a higher level. That's when progress is able to be made, okay? And both sides are going to have to give, including the young teachers. Like I would invite them or young, it doesn't matter, just the younger workforce to try on the notion of commitment and sacrifice. What does that feel like? Because often it feels really good, but it doesn't mean then that you're caught, that you're in that for life. You can have moments of high commitment, high sacrifice, and then ebb and flow out of that, where there's moments in life where you recharge and regenerate and enjoy, right? Enjoy the fruits. And it's possible. And that's the other thing. People are like, this is not achievable. It is achievable because we've seen it happen. We've brought those cultures into organizations. So it's doable. There just takes commitment, right? You just have to buy into it. So anyhow, on that note, get out today, get some exercise, get some fresh air. It's a beautiful day. Well, for the West Coast, it's beautiful, kind of misty, rainy day. I'm so fortunate to be running again after a very extended knee injury. So it just feels awesome to be running the trails again. So get out in nature, go for a hike, go for a run. Get some extra sleep tonight. Make sure you're eating all your fruits and veggies and healthy proteins and fats, and also connect with your friends, share some love, be in service of others. It all contributes. Okay, take care of yourselves. We'll see you next week. Okay, bye-bye.